Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to a fresh edition of You Know It, You Love It, Futbol Americas. I'm Alexis Nunes, and talk about a full house today. Kasey, Keller, Herculez Gomez, and our little sprinkling of Conmebol, Alejandro Moreno, who, by the way, forget Shaka's power rankings, Ale. I hear you've got a little list for us.
Well, yes, I was asked to do a list. I don't know why it was me that had to come up with this list, but yes.
A perfectly curated list.
Are we still doing top restaurants in town list with Ale?
I can do that too.
Ale loves.
I prefer doing that list than the list that I was asked to do.
Well, next time maybe we'll do that list at the restaurant, but it just shows that we have something juicy coming for you later on. But as we said, 2 months he will be sidelined for, and you have a look at this. He does have a bit of an injury history. He did have a major injury in January last year that kept him out pretty much for all of the season. He started coming back in fall last year, guys, and seemed like he was really on a nice roll, but now this is just another setback that I feel like I want to talk about the timing of it, Kasey. Let me start with you on this one, because it feels like it could be the worst timing ever because he's been on such a hot streak, or do you think he still can return strong?
He has time, but the tricky part is it's really that end of March window that is going to be so crucial. And the question mark will be is, will he be back by that time, and will he be back enough to get enough form and fitness to where Pochettino says, yes, I need you in that last squad? Has he done enough before that to be given enough equity, leeway to be able to then be like, okay, let's work you in? Just tough timing for Ricardo.
Herc?
If it was anything else besides the forearm or arm injury, I'd be a bit more worried. He's lost 31 games due to a knee injury, and you suspect, or you expect, that there are muscular injuries to follow when it's a big injury with your knee. We don't know to the extent of how bad that knee was. They didn't disclose if it was ACL, if it was meniscal, if it was cartilage, what it was, but he missed 31 games.
Yeah.
And then he misses because of muscular issues, a few more games. This is a freak accident. I'm not too worried about it. He has a few things going in his favor. That when he plays, he's been scoring goals. Brief time, a lot of time, he scores goals. The other is that Folarin Balogun's the only one, when it comes to club and country right now, that keeps scoring goals. He's the only one. So when you look at the rest, Haji's cooled off a bit at the club level. Josh Sargent, he is in no man's land right now. You know, Patrick Ajimana scoring a few goals in the championship, but he hasn't been there on the national team to participate, let alone score those goals. So by default, I think Ricardo Pepi's still in that top 3 pecking order. He's got that going for him, but certainly, as Kasey's saying, with such an important window coming around, you don't want to be injured. And you want to be hitting your stride, hitting your form at the right time. So it's not worst case scenario for Ricardo Pepi, but after the long injury spell, it's not what you want to see. And
I feel like any injury in a World Cup year just has us all panicking, Ale.
Yeah, but as you know, Alexis, in fact, the whole panel knows.
Break it out.
I'm a beacon of positivity.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I love this. Positive Ale.
Yes, glass
Had his
half
coffee.
full all the time.
No, it's not even half full. It's like like
just
3/4 full.
His cup runneth over.
It's full. It's full. Look, if you're going to have an injury, Ricardo Pepi, or any player for that matter that thinks they're going to be part of the World Cup, right now is the time to have the injury.
And an arm.
Yes, and that would help too, unless you're a goalkeeper.
Yes.
Right now is when you want to have the injury. Right now, he's outside what I like to call the kill zone, the point of no return.
Yeah.
It's not close enough. If this were late April, early May, then we can have the conversation of, what might have been, what could have been for Ricardo Pepi. He's out. He's gone. He's not going to be part of the World Cup. But right now, it gives him some time to get healthy, get fit, get back to playing. And to Herculez' point, it also gives time for all those guys to continue not scoring goals.
Yeah.
Not scoring.
And so it feels as if him being out, while obviously you feel for the player and you feel for the fact that he had been hot and he had been scoring goals and you want to continue playing when you're hot, in him sitting, right here with the arm like this, he's going to climb up that list. He's going to climb up that list because everybody else is not making an argument for themselves. None of these players are saying, I'm your guy. There's Folarin Balogun and then the rest. And of the rest, those guys are not moving. They're not moving up, and if anything, they're moving down. which then allows, again, Ricardo Pepi with his arm all mangled up, right, to climb up the list. Glass half full, I'm telling you, Ricardo Pepi will be just fine. And you need players who somehow are able to get on the end of chances. And Ricardo Pepi has that in his game, has that in his personality. He will get an opportunity to score a goal in the World Cup because the ball will find him late in a match. Whether he puts it in or not, that's a different conversation.
Well, Herc, interesting to hear Ale talk, as it always is. But, of course, glass half full or glass really full for Ricardo Pepi. But for everybody else, not so much. And it's true, the striker debate for the U.S. men's national team is one that we have been having for years now. So if the rest of the guys aren't impressing as much to the point that Ricardo Pepi, with his mangled arm, as Ale said, on the bench, doesn't need to worry too much, probably does a new name benefit then?
A new name will always benefit if there isn't a clear field of potential competition there. It's one player only, and that's Folarin Balogun right now, who's clearly won the battle in the eyes of Mauricio Pochettino, clearly links up well with the most important playmakers on the team, a Christian Pulisic, we've seen it in the past with Giovanni Reina, and clearly has the form at the club level as well. He's scoring goals in the Champions League, scoring goals in the French League, in the French Cup. He's the only one that has the total package right now. So a newcomer could come in. We see this happen all the time. You're talking to a guy who played 0 minutes, was invited to 0 camps in the lead up to 2010 World Cup, and made it onto the U.S. men's national team. Started a World Cup game. Things can go for you and happen. But if you're Ricardo Pepi or anybody else, let's just concentrate on Ricardo Pepi. You've already missed a World Cup in 2022. You are one of the leading goal scorers on the team in a World Cup cycle. You saved the coach's job early on. You would have pegged yourself to been at that World Cup, and you weren't. So you're thinking to yourself after after a knee injury, after something that took you out for 31 games, and then muscular injuries, now this, you're asking yourself, why does this keep happening? I can't allow this to happen. I need to get my body right, get myself right, and get on the field. Because Ali's right. He scores goals, and we know he's going to score goals, but you can't score goals if you're not on the field.
Area of the pitch, there's another name that we can talk about, Josh Sargent, and we're going to talk about him right now because he seems to be embroiled in a bit of a battle. Toronto FC have bid $18 million for him. However, Norwich boss Philippe Clement says that he won't be leaving the championship club, at least now in January. Well, Josh Sargent seems to be forcing the club's hand because as Norwich had an FA Cup game against Walsall at the weekend, he refused to play because of certain reasons. This is what the boss had to say. He said, Josh sent me a message on Sunday evening saying he would not be available because of transfer things in his head. This is obviously not something we want and will have consequences. It is something we need to speak about inside the club, but the club has made it really clear to Josh and to his agent that he will not be leaving during this transfer window. So, is this something? Is this nothing? Or is this everything, Kasey?
This is a whole lot of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need a young player that really has never truly proven himself thinking that he can demand under contract when I can play, when I can't play. And this would be the type of thing, if I was a GM at Toronto, I'd be like going,
okay, no.
I don't want this in my side. I don't want this attitude. I don't want this player. I want a guy that is committed to play. Look, I have no problem sitting down with the club and saying, hey, look, what do you think? They own you. They have your rights. You signed a contract. This is embarrassing for me, for a young player, embarrassing for him and embarrassing for his management.
Ale, you didn't like it. You made a sound the minute I was reading exactly what went down.
Let me repeat that sound. Good grief.
What happened to the positivity?
Well, these people, it's like they're doing it on purpose. They're testing the theory. And I'm going to fail miserably. Look, imagine, hold on, just imagine taking out your phone, right? And you're going down the list of your contacts and you go to your, here's a manager, okay. And you're writing this text message that is gonna go to your manager about not playing.
In an FA Cup game.
Because you have transfer things in your head. I don't know where the disconnect is. And sometimes this is a conversation that I have not only with people like Joe Sargent, but my own kids. maybe generationally speaking, I am closer to Kasey than I am to my kids. It just feels like, what are we talking about? What is your job?
He crossed the line.
What is your commitment?
Who do you work for? You sign a deal, and we often talk about how clubs don't honor deals and players should be protected because of it. If you're a player, your responsibility is to honor your deal, just like the club should honor their deal on their part. It's your job to show up to play. Now, whether that means that you're going to ask for a transfer or that you can meet with the club behind closed doors, as Kasey talked about, okay, that goes on in every club in the world. Fine, no problem, no issues. But your responsibility is to show up to the game and to play the game. Now, this is, I think we can all agree that Josh Sargent, he may have a market here in MLS and Toronto FC. And in fact, I would take the position of Norwich and I'd be like, how much are they offering us for this guy? and rethink, maybe we're better off taking this offer. But regardless, that a player like Josh Sargent then stands up and says, I am in a position where I can demand things. And that it's scary. It really is scary. And you feel like there's got to be somebody in his life that tells him, hey, Josh, hey, how about you go to training? How about you go and show up for the game? How about you do your job? And when you do your job, then you're in a position where you can ask for certain things.
Herc, how would you handle this back in your day? Considering you're one of the younger
If I was his
Cubs at
teammates
this
or if I was
table.
Josh Sargent, because there's a few
If you were
different.
him, he's crossed the line, do you feel?
Well, he's obviously crossed the line. He's trying to force.
The line was here and he's over there.
He crossed the state line.
He's cleared the line. What makes this look even worse is last transfer window he had interest in the Bundesliga, and he was scoring, coming off of multiple seasons, scoring tons of goals for Norwich, and you're thinking, this is the moment for Josh Sargent to take that leap.
Herc, he wasn't scoring tons of goals. He was scoring goals when he was fit. And then he was
on the field, he's scoring
but he was
goals.
scoring decent.
He was among the goal
He didn't score
scorers.
30, 40 goals.
No, but nobody in championship is scoring. But I'm saying he's amongst the goal scorers of the championship. And he's a player who right now is 25 years of age, and you're thinking, should have already taken that next step. Because if you watch him play as a 9, there are a lot of things to admire about Josh Sargent's game. You know, if we had a little cup, we had cups for everything a 9 could be good at, his cup would be full in a lot of different things. He's a very complete player in so many things. But up here, if you're not complete up here, if you don't want to compete up here, it does you no good. There was a club in the Bundesliga willing to pay somewhere around the same amount of money as Toronto, and he didn't want to go. He cited personal reasons. Respectfully, fine, your personal reasons. But you come back here and you want to force the club's hand to go back to Major League Soccer, and I could only assume it's because it's the reason that we're all thinking. Because now he sees a clear pathway to the national team. He sees what's going on, and he says, Mauricio Pochettino doesn't care where you play. Mm-hmm. My family would be much more comfortable in North American Major League Soccer. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. I can see a direct pathway to the national team. This works out for me and my family, and it should work out for Norwich. They get their money too. So in his mind, he's thinking, this is the best case scenario. But this is the worst way of going about it, because if he doesn't leave, what kind of position is he at? What kind of position is he now have with his club?
The club gets to make a decision. He doesn't get to make a decision. So, yeah, you're going all in with a hand with a pair of twos, and sometimes you can win with a pair of twos, but not that often.
Well, I just go back to what Philippe Clement had to say. He said there will be consequences. So when you use that word consequences, Kasey, what are you seeing? How does this end? Are we going to see a big public apology from Josh Sargent, or do you feel this is beyond repair now?
Look, I don't know if Norwich have the finances to be able to stick him with the youth team, but I've seen that. I've seen not only are you not going, but you're not even in the first team anymore. Go train with the kids.
You don't play, you don't get paid. It's that simple. There'll be a monetary fine.
There'll be 2 weeks' wages.
Yeah.
That's the maximum you can be fined in the UK. So he'll get 2 weeks' wages, and then they'll make a decision from that if he wants to be involved, if they're going to involve him or not. And some of it will truly depend, I think, on what you just said. Is there, hey, I made a bad mistake, Or are you going to double down on it and end up with the U team?
You asked me, what would I do? And I asked you if I'm Josh Sargent or if I'm his teammate. Because if I'm reading this, and if you're reading this, Alan, you're his teammate. There are a few things that are coming across your mind. And being respectful and being kind to the kid isn't one of those things.
Yeah.
And are they in the relegation
He's not a
zone
kid.
right now?
The thing is that he's not a kid.
He's a kid to us.
I'm not saying he's a kid. I'm just saying.
Hey, part of what they should do is take the cell phone away. All right? So he's not sending text messages. Are you? If indeed this is the way that you want to go about it, you don't send a text message. You go and talk to the coach. You talk to the manager, and you have a conversation face to face, right? Be mature about it and actually take responsibility for what you are trying to do. And a text message, and again, there is a generational disconnect, and I'm willing to admit that everything is done via text these days. Mm-hmm. This sort of thing is not done via text.
Yeah, but Ali, I don't buy that he's going rogue by himself. He's got representation. This doesn't just come out and he decides. Like, he's clearly being guided by somebody here. That somebody thinks, force your way to go to Toronto. And you mentioned if you're Toronto's GM, they don't care, Case. They're getting the player they want.
Well,
and it's not the first time. Yeah, because they've done it. Toronto has a long history of bringing American.
It worked well with a couple of the Italian guys, huh? They were great team players.
Hey, you can
pay them a bunch of money, let them go rogue and see what happens.
Toronto will still do it. Toronto's still not proven they have the culture they once had.
But that's what I'm saying is it the right thing? I'm not saying what somebody in Toronto makes a bad decision. I'm saying if I'm a guy and I want the right culture in my club, and I got a guy that's willing to do that at that club, that means he's willing to do it at my club. And I don't want that at my club.
And you just mentioned, you just said, well, he's being guided. And I go back to something I said a couple of minutes ago. He's not a kid.
Yeah. He's
been around. He knows. There is right and there is wrong. And this is wrong. So if his agent or anybody else is getting in his ear and send a text to force your move, do not listen to these people ever again in the history of mankind.
Well, with that said now, too, if you're Mauricio Pochettino and you're seeing this saga, does this hurt his stock for the U.S. men's national team at all? Or do you almost
I don't know if he had any stock with the national team to begin with.
Do you consider it, though, and say, do you know what, fair play, I can see what you're trying to do, as Herc pointed out, you are, fighting to get into my squad.
Nope.
It hurts his stock.
No. To me, it's this is what can potentially happen in my squad.
So, red flag.
No,
yeah.
It's as red as Herc's jacket. Yeah. Look, let me just say, what is the word that Mauricio Pochettino has used time again? Culture. This goes against everything when you're building a culture.
Herc, you agree?
I do in theory, but Mauricio Pochettino has been a prisoner of his own words before, and he said he doesn't care what happens outside or what's happening.
Is that red?
Before.
Is it a red jacket or no?
It's red.
It's kind of like brick red.
Okay, all right.
He's mentioned that before. He only cares what you do when you're with him. So in saying that, those are Mauricio Pochettino's own words. I agree with the guys that this doesn't bode well. This is a terrible look.
Well, I'll tell you who's been looking good. Weston McKennie for Juventus. He scored today against Cremonense as they absolutely demolished them 5-0. And he has been impressive lately for Juventus, but despite all of this, it seems like neither party are interested in renewing their deal. And his deal comes to an end this summer, June 30th to be exact. So he also has a bit of a saga going on now here. Kasey, considering we're talking about the January transfer window, it doesn't seem like either party wants to renew despite how things are going now. Does he leave now?
Well, I think he leaves now if the right suitor comes along for both parties. But, this has been something that's been happening to Weston for the last couple of years. Every summer, new manager comes in, says you're surplus goods. He does a job. He fights himself back into the team. Next year starts and the saga starts all over again. Part of the problem is when you're on a specific contract and they can't get the number for you, or another club doesn't want to pick up the number that you're already on, you're kind of stuck if you're Juventus. And they've clearly made a decision, even though Weston keeps proving them wrong by getting back into the starting lineup, that they've decided that it's not for them. And I think Weston is also in this. I don't think Weston particularly wants to leave Juventus, but he wants to be at a club that wants him. And if a club every year tells you we no longer want you, why would you sign a new contract? Because why do you think it's going to change the following summer?
Well, as Kasey was saying, Herc, this Weston McKennie cycle is just like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. If you evaluate his season now, how would you? Is it just simply not enough for a new deal? Do you understand where Juventus is coming from?
Well, I don't think this is Juventus holds the cards. I think this is Weston holds the cards. You're going to be a free agent at the end of the World Cup or during the World Cup. That's a powerful chip if you're a player. That means no transfer fee. That's more money for you, more money in your pocket, a higher salary. I think the cards are in Weston's favor. Weston holds the power right now. If you're Juventus, you do everything you can to lock him down. So if he has a good tournament and somebody wants a potential sell, a Major League Soccer is willing to splurge on players, whatever the case may be, then you cash in. But right now, Weston is the one with the power. Weston's the one. This isn't so much rinse and repeat because he's never had this leverage. He has the leverage now. He's not signing. I wouldn't sign. I would play my hand, go to the World Cup, hope you have a good World Cup in your own country, and see what a good World Cup in your country can unfold for you. Parlay that. I think that's the move. I think that's what Weston is going for. I think Juventus right now is just out of cards.
Right.
Ale?
So then as I'm reading the report, you're suggesting that then the report is incorrect. Because as I read the report,
Correct.
Juventus not interested in renewing the deal.
Yeah.
You're saying
because contract talks with Weston have stalled. They've not come to an agreement.
I think it's
Mainly
like
based
the
on
Real
his part.
Madrid, Xabi Alonso mutual party.
Okay.
I
Yes.
think it's not so
It's
mutual.
a mutual party. They've stalled with him
I'm
because
reading what it says.
he's not looking to commit, so maybe Juventus are trying to
Correct.
flex their power to saying, okay, cool, well, we don't have to offer you anything.
Well, here's what I would say. If Juventus thought that Weston McKennie was a player that was a no-doubter for the next 5-7 years, they would be interested in renewing the deal. But since he has been a player that has been in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, now he's out. Now, I understand your point, and I'm much like you. If I were Weston McKennie at this point, I bet on myself.
Correct.
I bet on myself because you have, and this is something that players usually do not have, power and independence.
Yes.
However, it's a risk as well.
Yes, it is.
Anytime that you're betting on yourself or betting on something away from your control, because you can control your performances, but you cannot control the performances of others, and this is a team sport. You depend on others as well to make you look good, and as you make them look good. We're assuming, or he's assuming, that he's going to have a great World Cup. Well, there's the other option. What if there isn't a big World Cup? What if the United States are not as good as they could be or we think they can be? Then the market shrinks. And it because there will be others that will have an opportunity to showcase themselves in the World Cup. He's not the only one.
Well, let's look at it from an even, I'll go negative, Ali.
Oh, boy. Whoa. Why negative Ali?
Well, because we've all been around negative, Ali.
That is true.
Wow. That is true.
I just meant like when Venezuela.
That's right.
I've not seen negative.
Good to see you.
I've only seen negative Ale within reason.
Okay.
Well.
All right.
Okay, I mean, how much is Weston featured under Pochettino?
Yeah, well.
Not very much.
No. And not in his position either.
Right? So Weston had a stint at Leeds. How did that go?
Flat.
Okay, so now you're already saying he's done well in Italy. And I respect everything he's done because what is to me, one of the most difficult things to do is to change somebody's mind. And on multiple times, coaches have come into Juventus and said, you're not my guy, and ends up changing their mind and starting for that coach.
Multiple positions.
Multiple
schemes.
positions and multiple times.
Yeah.
So absolute ton of respect for that. But there's probably clubs in England that are saying, it didn't go so well at Leeds. Is there other teams in Italy? Sure, but you're talking about Juventus. So I don't know. I think it'll be a little tricky. Simply just be, I'm a free agent. Come on, come get me.
I see exactly where you're both coming from. But for the last 3 years, he's been on a 1-year contract. They've been trying to get him out. 3 years ago.
I wouldn't sign for that
3 years
either,
ago, they left him off the USA tour. And then when they realized they're going to cash in or lose marketing dollars, they added him to the USA tour. It's been multiple coaches, multiple tactical schemes, multiple positions. He proves his worth, and yet he always gets left wanting more.
Correct.
So I don't, if this is indeed the route that Weston is going, I don't blame him one bit. As a footballer, you want more control, more say in your future.
You also want somebody that
got a little
wants
bit
you.
Of course.
You also want to be somewhere where you're wanted and respected.
We heard the transfer rumors just last year before as well about FC Cincinnati wanting him as well. So
they were talking crazy money.
They were talking crazy money indeed. So is MLS the right move to go? Is it just time for MLS, Ale, for him? 27?
I mean, my opinion of MLS obviously is built upon my experiences on MLS, but the world of MLS has changed dramatically. And when they're bidding $18 million for Josh Sargent, then if you're Weston McKennie, you're thinking, well, my market is higher than that.
Yeah.
And so then you ask the question, how much is Weston McKennie worth in the European market? And is it much more than whatever MLS would bid for him? And so there are a lot of things that make sense in this case for Weston McKennie, but I do believe, and I don't know him personally, but I have seen the trajectory and I've seen the struggles and I've seen a guy that has fought his way back from the depths of being nowhere in particular to actually earning a place. So, and that tells me that there's an element of grinding there. A grinding that I would have liked to have seen from Weston McKennie more consistently over the years. But we have seen it in moments with Juventus when he's been forced to fight, he has fought. And if that's the case, I think he wants one more go around at the big time. And one more opportunity. How much bigger than Juventus is that going to be? That's the question.
That is a question indeed. Herc, you look like you want to say something.
There was a time, and you guys will remember not too long ago, where Major League Soccer brought in big stars from the U.S. men's national team. I played with a few in Toronto, Josie Elter, Michael Bradley. I played with one in Seattle, Clint Dempsey. Ala Bedoya came in later. There was an exodus of players from the U.S. men's national team coming to Major League Soccer. One could make a claim, and you could say whatever you want about where Major League Soccer was at that point in time, and it's a much different time today. But you can make an argument that that wasn't as beneficial for the U.S. men's national team as one would have hoped for. They missed the World Cup first time in I don't know how many goes, 2018. It needs to be something where there's continued growth for Weston McKennie. It's not so much the league, but the setup. And I agree with Ali. He's a player that, when challenged, has risen to the occasion, but you want to see it more. You want to see more of that.
You're not coming home for development. You're not coming home for taking that next step forward. You're coming home because you're getting a ridiculous amount of money to do so.
But at 27, you still think there's time?
To make money?
Well, no.
I mean,
we know he can still do that.
No, that's,
but to continue developing as well as the league.
No, if he's coming home simply because it's like, this is life-changing and I can't turn this down. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
And I don't hate on that either.
No.
You never.
But those
never
players
in a
I
million
spoke,
years
those players
you're
I
gonna
spoke
judge
about
that.
were already 30+ years old.
Yes.
It was different.
Okay.
I've checked those numbers. I don't think they were 30-something.
Well, Josie was a little younger.
Ale Moreno.
And so
Paid
was
never
Michael.
played. Paid never played. All right, well, you can hear a lot more from on the other show, ESPN
only
FC. It is on 7 days a week. You know where, ESPN Plus. All right, well, he's undoubtedly one of the most respected faces on the U.S. men's national team. I'm talking about Tyler Adams. Unfortunately, he's out with an injury now, yet another injury now for Bournemouth. But he is the main focus of the new Diary series here at ESPN and Anscape. Here's a sneak peek at the first episode.
On the way to training, typical routine, get up around 7:30, unless the kids wake me up earlier. I'm in a good spot. Obviously found consistency so far this season, continuing to work out any kinks that I have in the body, but the goal for me has always obviously been peak performance by the time of the World Cup.
Today was the day, the draw for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We were waiting for it. The U.S. men's national team, they were drawn in Group D, and just have a look at their opponents.
It's interesting, like, I don't think there's probably ever been a draw where all three teams you've played within the past, 6-7 months. It's such a coincidence that, we've just in the past 2 windows played against Paraguay and Australia, and then potentially Turkey if they go through the qualifying process. There will be expectations because now we've had good results against them that you're supposed to have them at the World Cup, but anyone that's played a World Cup know that it's a completely different ballgame. So it's favorable for them as well because they've played against us and know how to make tweaks against us now. So yeah, it will be fun, but a World Cup's a World Cup, man. Excitement all the way around. As soon as the announcement was heard around the world of the World Cup being brought to US soil, I think everyone felt this moment of excitement. Golden generation, quote unquote, for US soccer. We're not 22, 23 anymore. We're now 26, 27. We're at better parts in our careers, more experienced, haven't gone through it before. There's no gimme in the sense that, oh, you get knocked out, it was your first one. You didn't know what to expect. It's like, now it means something. I look at it as a huge opportunity for myself and so many other young Americans. I think the goal in this all is, of course, to win, have something tangible, have a trophy at the end of it. But it's also to inspire the next generation of young kids. Some sheep, say hi to them every morning, feed them on my way to training. It's very different from my drive to training in New York on the highways, but it's nice. Family for me has always been the most important piece of my life. If you ask anybody about me and who I am, they'll always mention that I'm a family first person. Obviously, you have to dedicate so much of your life and make so many sacrifices to what you do to compete at a high level in your professional job and career in sport. But it's not really me who's making the sacrifices. It's my wife, my kids, who I don't always get to be with when I have to travel on the road or go away for games or go back to the States and be with the national team. And I'm very thankful of the people in my inner circle, my parents, my brothers, my wife, my 2 kids. Outside of that, you feel like you don't need anything. And I try to be as present as possible with them and share those important moments with them. I don't take any moment for granted. I'm in a really good space mentally right now. Just coming off having our second kid, it puts a lot of things into perspective. You have a day job of going to compete every single day and be the best athlete you can be, but to find that balance with life and family and my wife and 2 kids now has been amazing this year. So I feel like everything's coming together at the right time as we gear up for a really big year, not only in my career, but the U.S. men's national team career and history as we go to compete in the World Cup in 2026.
All right, a little snippet there from the diaries of Tyler Adams. Look out for that once a month until the World Cup, guys, right here on ESPN and Futbol Americas. But enough about Tyler for now, because Moreno, because you are unbiased.
Right,
you're from the CONMEBOL region.
All right, well, let me just say, I'll start with number 5, Michael Bradley. Now, Michael Bradley, I think, had the potential of being higher in this list. But the way I looked at this, it was in the totality not only of performances, but to the trajectory individually as a player in terms of your club career and really what the players were able to do with the national team. So just making the top 5, I think, is worthy. Michael Bradley was excellent for this team and was the leader of this team for a long period of time. I say he was good enough to be in the top 5. Number 4, John Harkes. Now, I was struggling with John Harkes, and I was thinking that maybe he was going to be higher in this list, but we'll see some of the names that come up, and I'll explain why those names are above John Harkes. First player U.S. player to be in the Premier League, and a guy who I really think in a different era would have gotten so much more attention. And I think that's true for John Harkes and the players that are going to come after him as well. Athletic, leader, a presence on the field, and I'm not going to speak out of turn because I think Kasey would say otherwise if I did. I think you look at John Harkes and the sort of player that you love to have as part of your team. It's an acquired taste in terms of a personality, but a guy who within a locker room you knew he was a leader and was a leader for the U.S. for a very long time. So in terms of leadership, I'd pick him above Michael Bradley, hence why I have him above and number 4. Number 3, and this was a struggle because I needed to make the case that Ernie Stewart was a midfielder.
Oh, he's definitely a midfielder.
Yeah, well,
You're in the 4-4-2 days.
Yeah,
so
well,
he was definitely a midfielder.
Yes. And he had, in terms of numbers, a similar career with the national team as John Harkes. In terms of amount of caps with the national team, Ernie Stewart had over 100, John Harkes had 90. But what I think separates the two of them is that Ernie Stewart happened to score what I think is one of the most important goals in the history of the United States men's national team, and it's a game winner, what eventually was a game winner against Colombia in the 1994 World Cup. We think about the 94 World Cup as an inflection point for soccer in this country, not just the national team, but soccer in this country. They won one game in that World Cup. They tied against Switzerland 1-1. They beat Colombia, surprisingly so, 2-1, and then they lost to Romania, eventually made it through as one of the best third-place team, and they lost to Brazil in the next round. So, and yet that World Cup seemed like a big deal for the United States. Well, the player who scored the game winner in that game was Ernie Stewart, and I think he gets overlooked when we have the conversations about midfielders for the national team all time. Number 2, Claudio Rey.
Oh, Kasey loves that.
and it's a close number 1 too. Him and the number 1 player are a toss-up for me. Claudio Reyna, in an era in which the United States were known for fight, guts, glory. Come on, USA. We're gonna run, set pieces. We're gonna grind. We're gonna defend. All these things. When the ball came to Claudio Reyna, it was about playing. He was different. Tack, tack, tack. Calmness, elegance, intelligence with playing the game. He looked different than everybody else. He had the fight, he had the toughness, but he could play with so much maturity to his game and elegance to his game that was not typical of the players of that time. Number 1, Tab Ramos. I bring up Tab Ramos and why he's so close to Claudio Reyna. Tab Ramos also had the elegance. He also had the calmness. He also had the intelligence. But the reason he is number 1 is he had something different about him in the attack and the skill set in the attack. The creativity that was not a skill set of the American player per se, you would see it out of Tab Ramos. If you were looking for somebody to get out of a tight area, to find a splitting pass, to get himself between lines, it was Tab Ramos. And I would suggest that all from number 1 to number 4, all those players, if they were around today, they would be starting for this national team. And I would also suggest that those top 4, they did more, much more, with less with the national team than some of the players today. So I'm saying this guy's achieved more with less resources, with less support, with less money, with less awareness. People didn't care about the national team as much as they do now, and yet these guys were getting results. And I can go through those results historically if people needed to. I did my homework. Come at me.
I thought that was a great list. Great kits too, man. I love a little trip down memory kit lane.
Obviously, there's a few questions. It's the 4-4-2 era, so I've got no issues with a Ernie Stewart being in there type of deal, if that's what you want to use as criteria. But if we're going with that criteria, DeMarcus Beasley definitely has to be in there. We're talking about a guy who would have been, what has he played? 4 World Cups, would have been in his 5th World Cup if the U.S. didn't qualify.
Had qualified
in 2018. Also, Michael Bradley would be much higher on that list for me.
Are we talking top 3?
Yeah, I would think so. Michael Bradley's a player that played 160 games more than 160 games for the U.S. men's national team. He's a guy who scored in the World Cup. He's a guy who led the U.S. men's national team to a second-place finish. I can go on and on. And I'm very pleased that there's a distinction between this player pool, today's player pool, in their club performances and the U.S. men's national team performances, because this player pool today, playing 200 games for Juventus is no laughing matter. That's not an easy feat.
Yeah.
Weston McKennie has one of the best midfield club careers in the U.S. men's national team player pool. Club careers. But those players, the Weston McKennies, the Tyler Adams, those players don't have the achievements of the U.S. men's national team of old. They could have that in the future.
Yeah, they might get there.
Let's see what this World Cup unfolds. Let's see those historic moments. But they don't. That's why sometimes cult figures like a John O'Brien come into this list. One thing about Tab, really quick, I'm sorry. You ask most people, I don't think most people put Tab on there. You ask his teammates, ex-players, and Tab, those players' favorite player is always Tab. And I think that speaks volumes.
Well, and Tab, again, was before Claudio in that first player that was more than just an athlete, that was more than just the guy that could fight and grind. He was the guy that had that little something extra.
Finesse.
So yeah, good list. And like I said, Ernie was, because I think there's some other players too, because in the first half of kind of, Landon's career, it was more Clinton and Landon were a lot more midfield, but then things shifted and they were more attacking. Kobe Jones played a lot too. Out wide, but then was up front, and so
it's an impossible list. Nobody's going to have the same list.
Correct.
It really is an impossible, task.
When I was asked to do this, the first thing I did was made the distinction as to what I thought was a midfielder for the United States men's national team, and so Landon Donovan did not qualify, Clint Dempsey did not qualify, Christian Pulisic did not qualify.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and even a guy like DeMarcus Beasley, who I thought about, and okay, all right,
yeah.
Then the last couple seasons
was a left back,
and then he's left back, and then is he a midfielder when you're playing with a back 3 or what?
And then so 4-3-3 evolution.
It became more of a winger type than a midfielder. So I try to keep it to more central guys that you could wholeheartedly say these guys were midfielders, and while in some ways, it was difficult to put the list together. In other ways, it was pretty straightforward. Once you make, and the distinction that you just mentioned there, Herculez, is that I wasn't evaluating club career as such.
Yeah.
This, what I was asked to do is for the United States men's national team.
I think that's important.
And then these players nowadays are yet to prove. They have to show me more. They have to give me more. Never mind me. They have to give themselves more in order for them to be considered in this list. Now, we can go down the path of what's a career now with Juventus as what it would have been a career with Juventus back in the 90s. And so that's a different type of conversation. Right. And because Serie A and Juventus are not right now what they were back then. What I could also say is that those players that I included in this list, particularly the top 4, these are guys that the opportunities that are available right now to the American player were not available to them back then.
Yeah.
Look, they had to be trailblazers. They had to find their own way. They had to, in the case of John Harkes, for example, he had to play with the Albany Capitals. Who? The Albany Capitals, right? In order to sort of kind of figure his way and his path. And so for him to get to the Premier League is something. For Claudio Reyna to have the career that he had in Europe is something. For Tad Ramos to be the player. And this is, the era of Tad Ramos was when, look, you talk about lack of resources for a national team. Kasey, I'm not speaking out of turn when I say these things, and I hope if I am that you would correct me. The resources were not there. You were the one taping your ankle, for goodness sakes.
We were getting ready to go down for that match in Trinidad, which qualified for our first World Cup in 40 years. We're staying at a Holiday Inn Express, training at the Cocoa Beach Expo.
Right.
Shaka loved there.
And then there was only.
I did a soccer camp at the Cocoa Beach Expo.
Yeah. So that was our campsite for the biggest game that got U.S. soccer on the
Sounds like a
map.
great time.
Claudio would always be my top three. Claudio, everything you just said. 2002, which is still the benchmark for the U.S. men's national team. Ironically, like 94, they went 1-1-1. They backdoored their way in, beat a second-round CONCACAF team, and made it to the quarterfinals. Well, they should have been in a semifinal. A blown handball.
Yeah, very easily could have been in a semifinal.
Yes, could have very easily been in a semifinal of a World Cup. That World Cup, that greatest U.S. men's national achievement, they had a World Cup all-star team, 16 players. The best 16 players were selected. Claudio Reyna was one of those best 16 players selected at that World Cup. So there are players who have, with little resources, done some great things on this U.S. men's national team. And there are players today, in today's pool, with a lot of resources that have not.
Well, put it this way. I would not have been the first American to play in La Liga if Tab hadn't have caught that elbow in the World Cup in '94.
Yeah.
And then because he was going to be injured for so long, Betis didn't put him in the convocados. And then, because he was the player of the season, not for Betis, but for all of the Segunda.
Yeah.
And so there was some difficulties there, unfortunately, for Tab, which I think would have changed that trajectory.
I also think that people have to have perspective and know their history and know their past and know where things come from.
Yeah.
And how these opportunities that are now available to the American players didn't just show up. Didn't just happen.
You had to have the Trailblazers.
Somebody had to grind. Somebody had to lay the groundwork. Somebody had to create a certain perception of an American player.
They had to change the perception of the American player.
Yes. Yeah. Which is actually even more difficult than creating a perception. You have to change it. They didn't think you could play. They didn't think you could. And I'll give you an example from my own experiences. When I went to the national team for the first time in Venezuela, I got called up by the Venezuelan national team. The manager who was in charge of the national team, and we're talking, this is not 40 years ago. We're talking, this is 2003.
So it wasn't my era?
No. A little closer this way. When he was asked about me playing in Major League Soccer at the time, he was so dismissive of the American player and Major League Soccer. Almost as if to say, look, I know he's scoring goals there and what have you, but that doesn't really count for much in our eyes. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. We're discounting MLS and American soccer in favor of whatever we got going on here locally?
Yeah.
But that's in Venezuela, who is overlooked by everybody else in South America. And yet we were apparently in a position where we could overlook the American player. If that's happening in Venezuela, imagine what's happening in Spain, in England, and wherever else. For an American player to make it at that time was exponentially more difficult than it is now. Not that it is easy now, but it was exponentially more difficult back then.
You had to grind, and someone who is always grinding is our Herculez Gomez. That's exactly how he's able to afford these luxurious bomber jackets. But he's right about in the right color, because we're going to be talking about Canada now. Herc actually had the pleasure of catching up with none other than Jesse Marsch recently. Big summer as well for Canada at the World Cup. Let's hear what they had to say.
All right, let's talk some Canada. We are officially 6 months away from the World Cup, my man. Let's dissect the group. For the sake of this argument or this exercise, it's Switzerland, Qatar, and let's say Italy in the group of the Canadian men's national team. Jesse Marsch, what do you see in this group?
Well, if Italy qualifies, I would say we have the worst draw in the tournament.
In the tournament?
Yes, because we go from being a pot one host nation to then having an opponent who would be pot one, another opponent, Switzerland, who would be pot two, and Qatar being a pot three, which basically would mean we'd be pot four, right? So it makes it very, very difficult for us. The draw has it does determine how, what your vision can be for what success can be, but I think that our team can compete with anyone. And certainly games against Italy would be very difficult, especially if it's the first match of the tournament for us in Toronto, where there's a huge Italian community, Italian-Canadian community. But I think it's a game that our team would be very much up for and excited to play. And even though it's a big challenge, like it's the World Cup, like it's supposed to be hard, right? I really respect the team that Switzerland has. I think they have a great coach in Joaquin. They have players that play at very high levels. And then Qatar, I still think it's a developing football nation, but it's a team that won't be easy to play against. It's another team that will be organized and a team that can run. So I'm excited for these challenges, but I don't think we got the easiest draw by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes, indeed. Well, here are the playoff paths that you can expect.
Realistic target. The first game, if it is Italy in Toronto, where there are a ton of Canadian Italians, it's going to be a very complicated game. Electric atmosphere for sure, but complicated game. And if you lose your first game, World Cup statistics have shown you, well, your chances dramatically go down of going out of the next group phase. They're a host country. There are 8 best third-place teams that advance. We saw it in the U20 World Cup. Mexico won one game and had fewer yellow cards, red cards, fair play. Advanced to the next round because of fair play, ended up tying and beating Argentina on penalty kicks. I believe second place is where they would like to finish. Switzerland's a very difficult team.
Yes.
To me, Switzerland's the best team in the group.
But Italy is the pot 4 team that nobody in the World Cup, no pots wanted. Yeah. They drew them. I think it's by far out of the host countries the most difficult group out of all the top pots. I think they probably got the most complicated draw.
I think we just expect Italy at some stage to
pull it together,
become Italy.
Yeah.
You know, and
or at least put it together.
Yeah, and so you're thinking we're still in this idea of, oh yeah, of course it'll be Italy. That's what because we all know who Italy is and who they should be, and they just haven't proven that. So, but again,
I mean, we're focusing on Italy, but you just mentioned. I agree with you. I think Switzerland's the best team.
Will become Italy, and you don't want that to happen in your group.
So what do you need to be one of those best third-place teams?
You need to win a game.
You need to win against Qatar.
And not get thumped by somebody else.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And don't get too many yellow cards.
I mean, we say it in jest, but that's the World Cup we're going to be living in.
Yep.
Well, so my point is, right, we can dwell on Italy and Switzerland if we so desire, but if you're Canada, you're thinking, all right, we see what we can get against this team. We got to beat Qatar. You don't beat Qatar, then you don't deserve to be going anywhere. And so, it's rough. It's tough. Is it the worst? I don't know. I don't know that if I were the manager, I would be acknowledging that it's the worst and actually giving you an explanation as to why it is the worst. And somehow you've made yourself into a pot 4 team. That's too much wasted energy and time from my perspective. If I'm Jesse Marsch, I don't even go down that path. What do we need to do to beat the teams that we have in front of us? And right now, we don't even know if it's Italy or not. What do we need to do in order to get a result against Switzerland? What do we need to do in order to beat Qatar?
And maybe the result against Switzerland is a 1-0 loss.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're like, okay, that puts us in an okay position if, to Ali's point, we have to beat the team we have to beat.
Yeah.
You know, I felt that a little bit in '98. You played Germany in the opening game.
I was there, by the way. I was there.
Oh, nice.
Parc de France.
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
hello.
Thank you.
And you're like, is there really an expectation that we're supposed to beat Germany?
Right.
Okay, no. To me, it was the Iran game was the one.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the game you win. And then see what happens against Yugoslavia. But you have to beat Iran if you're going to go through in this group. And I think this is a very similar type of situation. You have to get a result against Qatar.
So then overall now, what does success look like for Jesse Marsch? Is it just getting these results, or is it maybe finding a set identity that can even take him past?
Due to the group does matter. Who's in your group, the draw does matter. It determines your fate. That's just how it is. You would much rather play easier teams, have an easier draw, have an easier pathway to get as far as you can. They are looking for their 1994 moment. That is what they will do. I think they will have they will find it very difficult to make a run. To have
you mean like the U.S. against Colombia? 1994 moment. Yeah.
But where you galvanize a country, where something spawns.
Did I tell you
because
who
of it.
scored the game winner in that game?
Yes, you did.
That's
But-
number
Yes,
3 on
you
my
did.
list.
But
Yeah.
now I'm going to mix sports here, but listen, you're a baseball
No,
fan.
Ollie.
You're a baseball fan.
I was at that game.
You guys.
Not in the position I was hoping for, but I was at that game.
You guys are baseball fans, okay? The Toronto Blue Jays played against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and here is a team, a regional team in Toronto, and it got all of Canada behind them. It got all of Canada behind it. One team from one city got all of Canada behind them.
Because it's the only team for the whole country.
Yeah, and this is the only soccer team for their country. I firmly believe they can do the same. I happen to think Canada has a very good team for a tournament setting. I like the way they play defensively, how pragmatic they can be, and how vertical, direct, and they've got a few players that I think can really hurt you. So if they can make a run and have Canada get behind them, this is going to be their 1994 moment, and it could be something of worth. 1994 spawned Major League Soccer for the Americans. Who knows what it could do for the Canadians?
Half full for Canada.
No, he loves Canada.
He's rubbing up. He loves them. He loves him some
He
Jonathan
loves
David.
Canada.
He
I
loves
did.
him some
I
Jonathan
picked them in
David.
Copa America, and
no,
they
you
did
look-
well.
Yep.
You know,
I
it's,
love
loves
Canadians. They're lovely
Canada.
people. Great maple syrup. Big up Canada.
All right. Thank you for that, Alexis. Thank
Well,
you.
the other gift that keeps
Thank
on
you.
giving quite like
Thank you,
maple
Canada.
syrup is the Copa del Rey Albacete.
Thank you, Tim
against
Hortons.
A Xabi Alonso-less Real Madrid in action this Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN+. All right, let's get to it, right? Because Chucky Lozano and San Diego FC are no more. It seems like he will not be returning to the MLS side after, let's be honest, was a rocky debut to say the least. So let's hear more from Sporting Director Tyler Heaps and Mikey Varas on the decision.
Yeah, Irving is, look, we've had a lot of conversations with him, with his representatives leading into the break, as well as all of last season. We have communicated with Irving and his representatives that he will not be part of the Sporting plans moving forward. That was not a decision that was taken lightly. That was something that was well talked through from owners down to leadership, down to myself and Mikey, and has been communicated with the rest of the group. So we're working with him and his representatives to find the best solution and the best environment for him moving forward.
No one's bigger than the club. No one's bigger than the city. That includes me. And what I can say is the same thing I've always said. We're here to win. But how we win and who we win with matters. And we've made a decision across the entire club, leadership all the way up to ownership. Everybody's on the same page. It's not any sort of division. 100% that this is the best decision for us in the short term, medium term, and the long term is what I will tell him. Yeah, you know, we all respect him for the player that he is. Ultimately, it's just not the right fit. It's not the right fit, and when it's not the right fit, it's no one's fault. It's about making sure that we set him up best as possible to help him arrive to the World Cup, because we do want the best for him, and we think that's somewhere else. And most importantly, it's what we think is best for the team. To be competitive, again, in the short term, midterm, and long term.
All right, so simply just not the right fit. Is it really that simple? Herc, what do you think? Is this a footballing issue, money, or a bit more to this story?
All of the above. Listen, last season, there was an altercation with Chucky Lozano and the coaching staff. Don't know how public it was in front of the locker room, how private it was, but they deemed it so bad that the following week's game, MLS Decision Day, they needed to win in Portland or it would affect their standing. They wouldn't be able to host throughout the Western Conference Final. They made the decision to leave their highest paid player in the organization, $7.6 million off the roster. They beat the brakes off of Portland, come back, and they still decided it wasn't enough. They left him off again. He finally ends up playing a little bit the next game and then starts the final game against Vancouver. We know how that ended up for him. But they deemed him damaged goods. And they come here, and a few things. I applaud San Diego for the posture they are taking. Nobody's above the city, above the club. Great. Applaud it. But San Diego's shooting themselves in the foot in spite of Chucky Lozano. Now, Chucky Lozano, this is going to affect his immediate future, and that immediate future can and may and probably will include the World Cup with Mexico. But San Diego right now, are trying to sell him. Any leverage they had is out the window. You go to Mexico right now, all the top clubs, when asked, it's not we're always interested in looking for better players, strengthening our team. Nope, we are not interested. Nope, we are not interested. So when you look at the players' history, there is the events with the Mexican national as of late, left off the Copa America roster, in trouble with the Federation, Jimmy Lozano issues. You go back to his time at Napoli, Gennaro Gattuso and Chucky Lozano did not mix. He has a history of this. And you look at his playing history with the Mexican national team, the last time Chucky Lozano did something of worth was the 2018 World Cup when he scored against Germany. You take that goal out of the equation, you can't find another vintage Chucky Lozano performance or moment. It doesn't happen. So why they may be saying they are looking out for Chucky Lozano and hope he's at the World Cup, this directly impacts him and most likely leaves him off the World Cup.
When that clip finished, both Ale and Kasey made the same sound, a little bit of a slight chuckle.
Well,
So
here's the slight chuckle is, did he sign a 3-year contract?
Yeah.
Right? So basically they owe him about $15 million. Now, I'm ballparking that, right?
Yeah.
So do you know how bad you have to be for somebody to give you $15 million to go away?
which is why you think there's more off the pitch
There
as well.
has to be more off the pitch because nobody is saying, here's $15 million.
He wasn't that great for
take it and go.
$7.6 million on the pitch. Anders Dreyer was by far the best player on that team.
But you're still paying it. So you have to be so bad that you can't find a bit part for him because you're still having to
They
pay
opted
it.
for a 36-year-old Pellegrino to play over Chucky Lozano because they said, you're not helping us on the field and you're too much
really
distraction off
what
the field.
this ends up being is whoever made the decision to bring him in made an absolute horrible position to spend $20+ million for a guy that you didn't do your homework on, both as a player and as a person. And as far as I know, almost every MLS team loses money. And if you now are basically piling up your money and lighting it on fire, that's not going to help.